taken my time, convince me. All that I need is to cry.
Welcome to the evening show with Jackie Brambles. This is the home of great conversations with your favourite living legends of the 70s, 80s and 90s. Our opening track, Cry for Help, which got to number 7 in 1991, is one of 8 top 10 hits by tonight's special guest, and one of my favourites because it showcases that amazing voice of his. He has a new album, a tour, and had one of the most successful Glastonbury sets in recent history this summer. We are so happy he's here for our great conversation. Welcome to Rick Astley.
Hi, Jackie. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you, mate?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. I'm almost at the end of a really good flat white, so I'm in a good mood right now.
Get the man another one immediately.
Oh, you don't want two inside me, no, love. You know what I mean? That's not what you want.
I'm curious. What happens when an over-caffeinated Rick Astley starts?
Oh, you don't want to know. You do not want to know.
Let's start with the new record then, the new album. It's called Are We There Yet? And this really is 100% all of you, isn't it?
I write the stuff, I play it all, I produce it, I make it all in the garage at home because I've got a little studio in there. I just love doing it. It's kind of like my pet project actually gets released. That's slightly strange, but it's also not that strange when you think about the way recording has gone. You know, you can make a record on a laptop.
That's right.
And you can make a really good sounding record on a laptop, by the way. I don't mean just, I think if you've got the opportunity to do it, you just dive in and do it. And I love it.
Well, you've done a cracking job. I have to say it's soulful and upbeat, and there's a great sprinkling of Americana about it. I love it.
Thank you, my love. Thank you.
Well, without further ado, let's play the current single right now. This is Never Gonna Stop.
Never stop this feeling. Never gonna change the facts. Can't stop this from turning.
That's Never Gonna Stop, the new single from the new album, Are We There Yet? By our very special guest tonight, Rick Astley. And I would expect you're very much still on a bit of a high post Glastonbury. I was one of the many sat there watching it at home on the telly and just thinking, something weird is happening here. This guy's stealing the show.
Thank you. I mean, for us doing it, it just felt amazing. I don't think we had any inclination of anything other than this is going really well. And the weird thing was, because I was first on 12 o'clock on Pyramid, then we went out there about 11:15, and all the crew were all set and they were ready to go. And there's about 150 people and a dog in the audience. And we were just going, oh dear. And then literally in that next 40 minutes, it just filled up and it was just like a sea of people. So it was terrifying on the one hand, because it's like, we're going to be on national TV, we're going to be iPlayer for the rest of its life or what have you, and the YouTube, and there's going to be no one in the audience. But it was amazing. Yeah, it was great. It was truly amazing.
Did you have any reticence about playing there? Obviously being asked is really nice, but as you say, you're not performing, under a rock. The whole world can see what happens, and there's a kind of a cool factor around Glastonbury. Did you have any sort of worries about it?
I didn't have worries about it. I think, like I say, the only thing is when you've got the time slot of 12 o'clock and you are first on.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It's like ringing the breakfast bell and going, let's go.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's kind of most people are still in their tents at about 11:15, like I said, or 11:30. So I think it's also just about enjoying it.
Are you singing? We're not strangers to love. You know the rules, and I feel commitment's what I'm thinking of. You wouldn't get this from any other guy. I just wanna tell you how I'm feeling. I gotta make you understand. I'm never gonna give you up. I'm never gonna let you down. I'm never gonna run around and desert you. I'm never gonna never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna tell a lie.
Those waves of affection coming at you from the audience, they were just joyous to watch. And you clearly, absolutely still love performing.
I think if you ever walk onto that stage thinking, let's just get this over with, then somebody needs to kind of get you over with. You know what I mean? Put you in the van and send you back because because it's a privilege. It's a privilege. It still is. And as much as I'm sort of tired sometimes when, you know, after you've travelled a really long way or blah, blah, or what have you, and you kind of think, you only need that kind of hour before you go on, and your whole chemistry in your body completely changes, your adrenaline kicks in, everything, and then you suddenly realise how lucky you are to be doing it. You know what I mean? And I think,
yeah.
And I think that, you know, we it's not a normal job. It's not a job. It's not normal life. And I think the moment somebody starts taking it for granted, it's over. So I think you just have to enjoy every minute of it, because I've been there where people aren't interested. You know, when I kind of knocked it on the head for myself, that I wasn't at the peak of my career. It wasn't like people were in tears because I walked away. It was like I just snuck out the back door while no one was looking. And I kind of think you know, so therefore I appreciate, you know, being let in the door again sometimes to have another go at things, you know, so.
Well, listen, we want to go right back through the door and back through the mists of time to find out what artists, what kind of music was the making of Rick Astley. So let's go back to your childhood. What kind of influences were around you at home?
I've got 2 older brothers, an older sister. I've been sort of introduced to so much progressive rock and, you know, been to so many different gigs that are a bit out there and weird, and albums and all the rest of it, like early Genesis and all that kind of stuff and everything. And so I think when I started to find my own feet in terms of music, I did gravitate sometimes a little bit more towards things that were a bit more kind of like a hit single, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Sometimes I don't know, I think I gravitated sometimes to something that was just like smash, boom, there it is. And I loved Top of the Pops as a kid. I really did. And
who didn't? That Thursday night excitement, and
yeah,
and then also after you sort of watch Top of the Pops, or listen to the charts, you would sort of take your pocket money, wouldn't you, and go and buy one single. Go on the bus, go down the high street. Do you remember what your first one was, by any chance?
Yeah, my first single was "I Feel Love" by Donna Summer.
Oh, that's a cracker.
And, well, it was kind of strange because my dad gave me some money to buy some jeans, and he waited in the car, and I just went into the shop. I don't know what age I was, but I wasn't very old. And so that was a bit weird, actually. They let me do that full stop anyway. And the shop that sold the jeans had a record store next door, and they had this promotion on that if you bought a pair of jeans, you could go and get a single.
Uh-huh.
And I went in there, and I was just baffled because the whole of the chart was there and everything. I just looked at number 1 and thought, I think I know what that is, and I think it's really groovy, but I'm not sure. And so I said, I'll have the number 1, please. And so that was my first single, and thankfully it was really groovy and was an amazing record, just an absolutely incredible record.
The first single ever owned by Rick Astley, which he got free with his crisp new pair of jeans. An excellent choice all round, and we will be back to carry on our meander through Rick Astley's most meaningful musical memories as our great conversation continues next. Welcome back to the evening show with Jackie Brambles, where we are having a glorious, great conversation with our very special guest tonight, Rick Astley. Before the break, Rick, we heard about your free first single, thanks to the bargain jeans you bought. So what about the first big gig of note that you went to?
The first live gig was Supertramp. It could possibly be a progressive rock band called Camel, but I'm going to say Supertramp because, to be honest, and I loved the Camel gig, by the way, because it was just amazing. But I think seeing Supertramp as a kid, I was probably about 10 years old, Manchester Free Trade Hall, I think it was so amazing in so many ways because they had amazing, like, I'm going to say pop tunes because they have been popular and they've stood the test of time.
Absolutely, yeah, we play a lot of them.
They were also incredible musicians, like ridiculously good musicians, and I think I even appreciated that even at 10 years old. And they also had, it's nowhere near progressive rock, of course it isn't, but they have really strange signature moments in a lot of their songs,
yeah,
which have, you know, kind of instrumental sections and what have been solos and all the rest of it. Solos were massively important at that sort of period, and I think they've sort of drifted away, and it's only like a heavy rock band or a metal band or whatever that still pay homage to having that solo. Do you know what I mean? It's gone a lot now,
yeah.
And you get it in dance music a little bit because you get the break or the drop or the whatever they want to call it. But for me, going seeing them, this is like a bunch of guys at the top of their game in terms of their songwriting, but also what their musicianship. And I think I am a bit of a closet muso deep down, and I kind of think I just really was blown away by it.
Goodbye Stranger, circa 1979 from Supertramp. One of the first gigs our special guest Rick Astley ever went to see as a youngster. So when you got a little older, then you started performing.
I've always loved playing, and that's what I grew up doing as a kid at school, and later in bands and pubs and clubs and all the rest of it.
What covers would you have been playing back then in your band? Do you remember?
Oh, my word. We used to play a song called Love and Pride by, what were they called? It's just gone out of my head.
Was it King?
Yes, King, of course it was, yeah. And we all all the guys in the band that I was in, we really, really loved that song. And I remember seeing him for the first time on TV and just sort of thinking, what is going on? Because his hair was amazing, and he had these Doc Martin boots that he'd sort of like thrown paint all over and all the rest of it. And I don't know, we just really liked it.
Number 2 in 1985, that's King with Love and Pride, one of the cover versions that our special guest Rick Astley would do when he was playing around the pubs and the clubs of the Northwest when he first started out. And you must have been about, 1920 at that point, and very quickly afterwards started working for Stock, Aitken and Waterman as a T-boy initially, as legend has it. What was that environment like for you?
Well, I think when I first got there, they were still finding their feet and hadn't had their first number one yet, even. And the first one was Say I'm Your Number One by Princess.
Oh, yeah. She had a great voice.
And she was pretty amazing. I was kind of slightly in awe of her singing ability, to be honest, because it was way ahead of mine. And then obviously they did the Dead or Alive album, where Spin Me Round, which is just a bonkers great tune. It's just so good. And I kind of feel the one thing I'd say about Dead or Alive especially is that their image was so kind of like out there and so upfront and everything. And I kind of think that I was like, yeah, I don't really fit into this. But I also think...
yeah, that's not what I'm going to do.
But I think Stock Aitken Waterman didn't... I signed a deal with them when I was probably 19 or so, maybe going into 20, I can't remember. And I don't think they knew what they were, really. I think they knew how to make records, but they hadn't become this Stock Aitken Waterman machine yet. People think they controlled every aspect of every artist they worked with. They didn't. You're not controlling Bananarama, I'll tell you that. I will tell you that. Believe me. That is not somebody you're going to control, And obviously the girls came and they made a bunch of records with them as well. And that was kind of slightly different because Bananarama already had a fully fledged big career where they'd had big hits and stuff, you know what I mean? So it was kind of...
And they were cool.
Yeah, they were, yeah.
They'd had the whole thing with Fun Boy 3 and...
Yeah, they were.
They had that look.
Yeah, they had something else going on, I think, the girls, and still have to this day, where it's almost undefinable, because you kind of, they get categorized sometimes as being a girl group, and which they are because they're women, right? But I mean, I think that sometimes puts them in the sort of, some of those like 60s sort of Motown sounding, or Phil Spector or whatever, where people think, that these women, get put in the studio and sing this and off you go, da-da-da. Those girls co-wrote the songs, you know what I mean? So it's...
Yes.
And they co-wrote some crackers, you know what I mean? They might have even written some on their own. I'm not aware of that, I don't know, but I know they co-wrote them. And I think they were very much in control, if we want to use that word again, of what they were doing. So I think sometimes people don't perhaps appreciate how much somebody like Bananarama drove their own career.
Love in the First Degree got to number 3 in 1987, and as Rick said, the song co-written by Bananarama and Stock Aitken and Waterman. And we'll be back to continue our great conversation with our very special guest, Rick Astley, next. Welcome back to the evening show with Jackie Brambles. This is the home of great conversations with your favourite living legends of the 70s, 80s and 90s. And tonight we are cozying on in with our very special guest, Rick Astley. Just before the break, Rick, we were talking about you starting out at Stock Aitken and Waterman Studios and really getting a bird's eye view of just how they handled their stable of artists. As you quite rightly said, I think there definitely was a public perception that they were rigidly controlling, which is inaccurate in your experience.
I think the word control, it's a bit of a weird thing because we use that in context of like somebody being controlled. And I don't think Stock Aitken Waterman controlled me. You know, they're not that kind of guys, to be honest. They wanted to control their music. I'll tell you that for sure. You know what I mean? And I think they'd be the first to say that. They wanted it to be exactly the way they wanted it. And so they should. They were producers. That's their job.
Right.
But I don't think they ever tried to control me per se. I think they just wanted the music to be a certain way. They had a bit of a hand in saying what they thought the video should be, obviously, or Pete did sometimes, you know, because they didn't want it to be like, you know, me trying to be Guns N' Roses or something. Do you know what I mean? It would just be ridiculous, you know what I mean, and stuff. But
yeah.
All the clothes in the videos are just my clothes. I've said this a bunch of times before. Never going to give you up. All the clothes in it came out of a black bag that I brought to a video shoot, which includes the Rain Mac, the stripy T-shirt, the blazer, the chinos, the dodgy black shoes, all of it. And that's just because those are the clothes I had, and nobody really thought about it. Nobody, I think, at RCA... There's one or two people who knew I was, obviously Peter Robinson who signed me and stuff, and a couple of people there, but most people didn't actually know what I looked like or who I was. So, you know, because I was a Stock Aitken Waterman, it was in their kind of building, I'd been in their building for a year or so, so I kind of feel the control thing gets exaggerated a bit sometimes with lots of artists, you know.
Well, yeah, and in this now uber-polished world of stylists and glam squads that we have, it's lovely to hear about you turning up for your first video or Top of the Pops appearance with your black bin liner of your own clubber. Do you remember it? Do you remember that first Top of the Pops clearly?
Unfortunately, yes. It was very weird and very strange, and I'm sure you've heard this before, you know, and know it yourself, where you walk into the Top of the Pop studio and you go, is that it?
I know.
Because on TV it seemed massive. It was the ultimate smoke and mirrors. It was the kind of like, you know, TV trickery of making you think they're in a room the size of Wembley Arena and there's a huge audience and all the rest of it. And they just shuttled the audience around to whatever stage an artist was on. But the weird thing is, because they shot it like the show, they shot it as if it was live kind of thing, like it's happening right now.
Yeah.
The band previously playing to you would just be finishing their song and all the lights are on them. And even though you've rehearsed in the afternoon, they've camera checked everything, all the rest of it, it's still a bit weird to see other people performing and then the cameras all switch on to you and the crowd walks over to you, the DJ introduces you and boom, you're off.
Yeah.
And it was just really weird. It was too much to take in. I wish somebody'd take me to Top of the Pops like twice or three times and gone, look, this is what it's like being on TV. This is actually what it is. Because you've got enough going on anyway. You don't need to deal with the fact that it's all a lie as well. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, but I mean, I went on Top of the Pops so many times, like loads of times, to be honest.
Your first one was a cracker. I'm just looking it up on the database. Your very first Top of the Pops, in the studio with you were Def Leppard, Wet, 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 Kim Wilde, the Jesus and Mary Chain. I mean, it was pretty good bunch.
It's very eclectic, but also you can imagine the eyebrows being raised by various people there, seeing some kid for the first time from Lancashire sort of like shuffling about in front of a microphone going, yeah, he'll never happen. Yeah, that's got no legs in it.
Little did they know.
We're no strangers to love. You know the rule. Never gonna give, never gonna give.
The song that launched a lifetime in music for our special guest on The Great Conversation tonight, Rick Astley, Never Gonna Give You Up, his debut single, which of course went to number one in 1987. And after that, Rick, you were officially a pop star and life changed very quickly, travelling the world, mingling with a whole new peer group at a very young age. Do you remember any particularly special moments when you found yourself in the company of established artists that you'd long admired as a kid?
I think sometimes people who you think are going to be, would almost like, if, you know, look down on you or even worse, you know what I mean? It's pretty amazing sometimes. Ozzy Osbourne once, I was in a hotel bar waiting for a taxi in Los Angeles, and he was in the bar and Sharon was there, and he basically was saying, you know, are you touring here? And I said, well, no, not yet. We're just, you know, figuring out how we're going to go about that and everything. He said, oh, well, I've worked with all the best musicians. And he has, to be fair. He's worked with all the greatest guitar players in the world and great bands and everything. And he's saying, if you ever want some numbers, I could get a really good band together for you. And I'm looking at Ozzy Osbourne, right? I'm looking at Ozzy Osbourne. And for the first thing, he's talking to me. He started talking to me. I didn't go over and sort of like, Ozzy.
Yeah.
But Elton always comes to mind because he did some really lovely gestures towards me in terms of he actually came and played on a record once because he took me out to dinner with my wife. Well, sure, she wasn't my wife at the time, but in Los Angeles, and I'm happy to say this on the record, obviously, because it's not a private thing, because he came and played on the record. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
And he said, look, if you, because I'd just kind of like split with the Stock Aitken Waterman guys and wanted to go and make a record in a different way, really, with a bit more kind of like people playing on it as opposed to like just the two guys making all the music sort of thing.
Yeah.
And Elton said, look, if you ever want me to come and play piano, just give me a ring.
Behind the smile.
Someone saved my life tonight and saved the fee to hire a piano player if you're Rick Astley with Elton John as a mate. I can't tell you how many of our guests on The Great Conversation have said similar things about Elton when they were just breaking through and it was all very new to them. I think he is the official welcoming committee into pop stardom. He's always ready to befriend and support up-and-coming artists, and that seems to have been a theme of his life. It's really nice to hear. Well, listen, we're nearly out of time, Rick, but we do need you to choose the final track of the hour. We're looking for a song that you find yourself returning to often because you can depend on it to elevate your mood or inspire, comfort, energize. What would that song be for you?
Highway to Hell. And it's pretty easy to say that for lots of reasons. One, because I remember listening to that album for the first time and just thinking that it was amazing in every way, actually. The sound of it was just incredible. It's a band having a moment, I think, and really defining what they were to go on to be. And obviously they sadly lost the lead vocalist and had a new one come in, but it's just an amazing, incredible record. And that track, Highway to Hell, there's nowhere in the world that doesn't know that song, or just doesn't know ACDC anyway, but I'm saying that song for me is just a defining moment. I was learning to play the drums. That record taught me to play the drums, basically. I just played it over and over and just jammed along with it. And it's just got an amazing chorus, and it's sort of weirdly and bizarrely, you can play it for a grandma or a 10-year-old kid and anybody in between, and somehow it just gets everybody going. And we play it live quite often because I like to remind myself of being 15 in my dad's greenhouse, smashing the hell out of a drum kit that didn't deserve the way I treated it, but I treated it like that.
And you did it at Glastonbury, so, that just absolutely brought the house down at Glastonbury.
Yeah, to be honest, we're going to have to find a new one at some point because I've played it a lot, I think, over the last few years, because it's sort of... But one of the things, it's been a secret weapon for me, because if I ever felt not 100% in the gig, like I'm 3 songs in and I'm like, I'm still not here. The crowd seems to be there, but something with me is off. I'm not quite bedded in yet. I sometimes ask Simon, the drummer, so I say, come on, Simon, move over, love. And thankfully he lets me jump on his drum kit and we play Highway to Hell, and then I'm in then, and I can do the rest of the gig and sing together forever. I know that sounds weird, but it's sort of, I don't know, I think it's sort of, it probably just resets my DNA, I think, of like, this is why you got into it. Just remember why you started this whole nonsense. And that's because certain records moved you to a point of like going, this is what I want to do. And Highway to Hell is one of them, absolutely.
Let's remind people that you are going out on tour. You've got a couple of dates at the Royal Albert Hall. I know, but I think they're well sold out, aren't they? The ones in November, they're already done and dusted in the 1st and 2nd of November.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. That
out on tour in the rest of the UK in February. You start a UK tour. Belinda Carlisle is your support. We just had her on the show.
Oh right, okay, yeah, no, which is amazing. I know Belinda. I've met her a bunch of times, done gigs with her before and stuff, and she's great, full stop. But she's just got an amazing bunch of songs, so I'm looking forward to that. We also got the lottery winners as well with us, which is kind of crazy, and I know those guys a little bit, and so it's like all ends of the spectrum. Is somebody kind of like, I'm not saying brand new, but they've just had a #1 album and they're at the beginning of their career, and then you got me. So yeah, it's kind of strange but great, but wonderful. Yeah.
The new album, Are We There Yet, is out tomorrow. The new single is Never Gonna Stop. And what a pleasure it's been to share such a great conversation with you, Rick.
Cheers. Thanks, Jackie.
Take care.
Lovely to talk to you. Bye-bye.
Rick Astley, what a delightful chap.